welcome to another episode of Just Julie. My name is Julie Ramirez, and I've got a special guest for you guys today. Her name is CJ Boyd. She is the host of Awaken the Warrior. She's also one of my co-authors in the book Unleash Her. She has an amazing story, and I can't wait for her to share it with us. She is just absolutely so inspiring, and I'm just excited to have her on this platform. Welcome, CJ.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate it.
Yes, good. I'm so excited because you and I have chatted in the past, and we did that book we co-authored together, and we just have a lot of similarities, and I know that it's funny. I didn't expect to go into this book, and now that I'm doing these little mashups with other people in the shows and on the books, I just realize how we all are so connected, and in so many similar ways. And so I'm excited to hear your story today, because this is one I didn't know and I've never heard before. So if you want to tell us a little bit about you and how we can find you, and then let's get into your story, because I'm sitting on the edge of my seat waiting.
All right. I'm on Facebook at CJC Boyd, and then I'm also on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter as well, all under CJC Boyd. So that's how you can find me on all the socials.
Okay, awesome. So we were talking a little bit about an experience you had with your ex-husband and what you went through with that. Share with us what that was like and how it all started.
All right. So my first marriage, I got engaged when I was 16 years old. I sort of jumped into a relationship trying to escape my family dynamics. My parents fought nonstop. My dad was a raging alcoholic, would come home on Friday nights, drink his paycheck, and then the money be gone by Sunday. And so there was a lot of tension, a lot of fighting, a lot of anger, and, just something that a child shouldn't have to do. I remember laying in my bed, praying, please just let him go, or God, just let him leave. And, our life would be so much better. And what I found when I was, 16 years old, and I was like, okay, I'm old enough. And now it's ironic. My dad had just left, and I told myself I will never be in a relationship with anybody like my dad. And so then I got into this boyfriend relationship at 16. Only guy I ever dated. We got engaged when I was 17. We got married when I was on my senior year of college, or got married right after I graduated high school. Had our first child my senior year of college. And it was like, I feel like I embarked on the journey of, I just got into a relationship with somebody just like my dad. So, the relationship was me looking for love, for acceptance, for somebody to save me per se, because my home life was really crappy, and I wanted somebody to prove that they loved me and that I was worthy of that kind of love. And this guy did that. He said all the right things, and he told me, I'll take care of you and I'll do all these things. And what I quickly realized is that I got into a relationship with somebody who wanted to control me. He didn't want a girlfriend. He wanted somebody who he could have his thumb on. And I was, to be there and be with him and do everything he said and speak to the people he wanted and, look the way that he wanted and be this, I don't know, like trophy wife at, 19 years old. And it was quickly, spiraling out of control. And I realized I'm like, I have no friends. He alienated all my friends. I couldn't go out with my friends. I couldn't go visit anybody. He was constantly checking where I was, looking through my phone, looking through my day timer. I was an outside salesperson. So I obviously talked to hundreds of people a day. And so I had all these names and numbers in my day timer, and he would go through that and he would just lose his mind, saying I was cheating on him and I was doing all these things. And I'm like, I don't have time to do that. That's not who I am as a person.
Did it start with him like that right away, or was he a different and then just shifted? And how long after before you started to see these signs of him?
He was not like that at all. He came from a family of money, and they had the name in the town. I live in a small town, so it was a big family name, and they were highly respected, and everybody loved their family. And it was not like that. I dated him from 16 until 18. I didn't see any of that behavior. He never drank when we were together. He never went out when we were together. We spent all our time together doing things, and I never saw any of that until shortly after we got married. And then it was like, game on. Now you're mine. This is how it's going to be. And that things totally, like, it was like flipping a switch, to be honest.
Wow. So did you guys, when you got married, how quick after did you guys start a family?
We got married when I was 19, and I had my first daughter when I was 21.
Wow. So here you are, you're young, you're in your first relationship.
Only relationship.
Only relationship. And now you've got this guy who just flipped a switch. He's not at all like you thought he was. And now you've got a baby. So
Yeah.
so what happened? How do you feel at that point?
Well, I felt trapped, honestly. I mean, here I am. I'm going to college, and I'm working a full-time job outside of that, and I have a baby. So I literally had my daughter on spring break, my senior year of college. So I'm studying, I'm going to college, I'm studying, I have her in the car seat on the couch watching her. I'm reading my psychology books, and I'm studying for all my tests, and she's there, and he's working and doing the things, and then he's mad because I'm not spending the time, doing the things that he wants to do. And I'm like, I have to graduate, in order for me to get a good job and to feel like I'm worthy and I'm valuable, I have to get a good job. And it's one of those things where it just felt like I could never do anything right. I felt like it was like the white glove test, I would clean and it was never good enough. I would make dinner and it was never good enough. And I honestly felt like I was transported back into my childhood.
Wow.
Like, I literally felt like I was sitting at the table as a scared little girl watching my dad implode.
So when going back to your childhood, did you grow up with brothers and sisters in that house that also experienced it as well? And
yeah. I have 3 brothers. I have 1 older brother and 2 younger brothers. My older brother is a year older, and my next youngest is 8 years and then 6 years. And honestly, he was a child that was, my mom got pregnant to try to save the marriage. They thought if they had another baby, my dad was off having these affairs and being an alcoholic, and she thought, if I have another baby, this will save our marriage. Well, it did not do that. And then in the meantime, we found out that he had other children illegitimately at the same time. So that's been an adventure.
yeah, that's got to be shocking. And it's funny because when you grow up in a household like that and your family's fighting or you have conflict with them, you don't realize that you start to look for things outside of the family to fill that void.
Right.
And so what's interesting is that he was what you thought you wanted or needed to fill that void, and then it just turned so quickly. So walk us through like some of those moments where you were married to him and what happened. Because you seem, even from just what you're saying now, you seem so mature that you were able to see early on that there was something not right about the situation, that he was trying to control you. Right. So I think that's interesting at your age, because, you don't always.
I think I saw that. I think I realized that because I watched my mom do it. I watched my dad do it to my mom, and it was like this pattern. It was like my mom did never go outside the house without my dad. Anytime they went to town or anywhere, my dad was always with her. My mom spent 24/7 with us kids. She did everything for us, and she babysat my cousins, and she did all these things, but she never had friends outside the home, and she never did anything that was for herself. And I kind of thought that was weird because I would go to a friend's house and they'd be like, sitting down at the family table and everybody's laughing and having a good time. And I was like, this is not how my family is. What is this? But the funny thing is that my parents coached Little League baseball. And so it was kind of like Jekyll and Hyde. So we would go out to the baseball games, and my dad would coach all these kids, and he'd be, laughing and joking, and he'd pile everybody into the back of the truck and take them down to the local diner, and everybody would get ice cream. And then we would go home, and it would be like Dr. Hyde showed up, and he was like totally a different person.
That's crazy. Because the kids were probably like, man, I wish this was my dad. And then
Exactly.
you're thinking, you have no idea what I'm going through behind closed doors.
Exactly. And I was literally, I'd watch the kids with these ice cream cones and their smiles on their faces. And I'm thinking, why can't he be like that at home?
Yeah.
What's the deal? And a lot of times I internalize, I'm like, maybe it's me. Maybe he's
Mhm.
mad. He has 3 sons. I'm the only daughter. And the funny thing is that I'm the only daughter, but I'm the only one that ever got the belt. My brothers never got the belt. My
Really?
dad would literally take the belt to me. I remember one time my mom made dinner. She made hamburgers, and he was yelling, and I was like, I can't eat because I was crying and I thought I was going to
Yeah.
choke on this hamburger. And he kept telling me, you're going to eat the hamburger or you're going to bed. And I'm like, fine, I'm going to bed. I'm not even hungry. And he goes, but you're going to eat it when you get up. And then he would spank me, put me to bed, tell me I
Wow.
could get up, sit at the table, try to eat this hamburger, same thing for like 8 hours. And I just remember thinking, why is my mom not doing anything?
Yeah, I'm getting like so emotional just hearing about that because, we didn't get the belt very often, very, very few and far between. But it's funny because you remember those moments, exactly where you are and how you're feeling.
Yeah.
And so I discipline my children, but not in that way, just because of that
Yeah.
situation. But I mean, that's just incredibly. Do you think it's because he was resentful that you were the girl, or
I think it was because he was resentful of me, number one, because I was a girl,
yeah?
and number two, because I actually caught him in affairs and I told
Oh,
my mom. So it was my fault that they were
yeah.
getting a divorce. He blamed it on me because I told my mom.
He was
I'm 8 years
punishing
old.
you.
What am I gonna do? I'm not gonna not tell my mom I saw you sleeping with somebody else.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He
So I
was
think a lot of it
punishing
was
you.
his anger at me for telling my mom.
So, what were the similarities that you saw between your husband and your dad? Like going into that relationship, you're married with a baby. Were there similarities? I know there's a pattern of a similarity, but were there specific instances?
I think the whole, my dad had a lot of affairs and a lot of children out of wedlock. And my first husband also was having affairs. And I think they project that behavior onto you as a woman and accuse you.
Yeah.
You're cheating on me. You're doing this. You're doing that when they're the ones actually doing it. And I think it alleviates their guilt and makes them feel like if I believe that she's doing it, then it lessens my accountability to my own actions. So that was one. Drinking was another one. I mean, like I said, when we dated, he never drank. Maybe the occasional drink at Christmas when you're together with your families, but he was on a bowling league and he would go to the bar and he would
Yeah.
drink and I wouldn't hear from him and be like in the middle of the night and he'd come home and I was like, this is so similar. I don't know why I'm here.
Did he try to discipline the kids the same way or treat them
No,
the same? No. Okay.
no.
So,
No, but he actually worked a lot. He was a good dad. I'm not going to say he wasn't a good dad, but he owned a farm, so he worked a lot. There was a long hours, and I was, taking care of the kids. But the funny story is that when we got divorced, he made it sound like I never did anything with the kids, like he was the sole caretaker. And I'm like,
oh,
you make
wow.
it sound like you actually like were the person that gave birth to them.
Yeah.
Like I had nothing to do with it. But
Because if you're focusing, sometimes the mentality is that if you're focusing on yourself and you're trying to have balance between what you want and being there for your kids, it's almost like you're not there at all for your kids. Like you have to be there for like every moment and you can't be distracted with anything else. And I just don't understand that sometimes because not everybody wants just to be a mom,
no. Well,
So
the thing that was hard for me is that, I was going to college. I got a college degree. I worked a full-time job and I had my children every waking minute that I was home from those things. So I wanted to be a mom and I was a good mom, but then I got that taken away from me because of, he comes from money and he has all these stories and no one would ever believe that he's doing the things that he's doing. I
yeah.
remember one time specifically is I was an outside salesperson, and I went to a farm, and I sold a bunch of phones to this farmer. And when I came home, he was home, and I thought it was weird. He's home in the middle of the day. And so I went in, and he came back out, and he parked his car behind mine. And I thought that was super odd, because why are you not just parking in the garage? And it transpired into this huge blowout of, I know you're cheating on me. I found your daytimer, and you have all these names. And I'm like, I'm an outside salesperson. You can literally follow where I am. I
Mm.
have a record of everywhere I go, that type of thing. And it was one of those things. And I finally, I said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I cannot do this, because I feel like no matter what I do, it's not right. I'm being made to feel like I'm doing something wrong, and I'm not. I'm literally going to work. I'm coming home. I'm with you every single night. I don't understand. And so I said, I want it out. And he said, if you don't want me, no one's going to have you. And it ensued, and we had weapons in our house, and we fought over a 22. And he finally ended up locking himself in a bedroom. And I called
Mhm.
his parents, and now mind you, they're a strict Catholic family. And I called his parents, and his dad answered, and I said, there's some stuff going on here. I need you to come get him, because if you don't, I'm either going to be dead, he's going to be dead, or somebody's going to jail. And he
Yeah.
said, and this, I can't believe it came out of his mouth, but he said, your marriage vows are till death do you part.
Oh my God.
And I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
He was that old fashioned?
Yeah.
And now did you guys hide and fight, or were you out in the open, like kind of like your parents were, and your kids saw
Well, our
the fight?
kids were younger. I mean, they were like, 2 and 1. So they were babies. And, you don't think that they pick up on that. You don't think they know any of that. And, even to this day, we don't talk about that,
Yeah.
but it was never, they were never there when it happened. We'll put it that way. Not
Okay.
that situation anyways.
So there was one specific incident you said he chased you with a knife. What happened? What triggered that?
It was the same thing. It was one of those things where, I go to work every day, and I come home, and I'm like, I sold all these phones, and I was super excited. And it's like, he's over on the couch going through my tote and my stuff, and there's these names and the phone numbers, and I'm like, they are clients. You can go to my work, you can look and see how many phones that I've sold, you can look at those things. And it was still one of those things, if I can't have you, no one's going to. And knife to your throat in the middle of the dining room floor. That
Yeah.
time the kids were there. My daughter was in the high chair, my son was in a bouncy seat on the floor. And obviously I don't think they remember that, because they were young, but
Yeah.
that was the final day. That was it. I was like, I'm done. I'm out. I can't do this.
So what was your plan to get out? I mean, obviously, I'm sure you were scared for your life, but how did you get out without it getting worse?
The kids, when I left, the kids were at daycare,
Uh-huh.
and I went to my mom's, and I explained what was going on. And my mom, God love her, love my mom to death. She's my best friend in the whole world. But she's like, I can't believe he would do that. You have to be looking at it in the wrong light. And I was like,
She was that
there
naive about it, and she
there
went
is no
for
wrong light here,
something.
mom. Yeah, she was, but I think it was like she was in denial, because she didn't want me to take the same path she did. She didn't
Yeah.
want to think that that could be possible. And he come from money, and when we got together, he helped my mom out in a lot. He like bought her a new dining room table. He helped her when my mom didn't have a lot of things. He would buy things for her house,
Yeah.
because I was still living at home when we first met. So he would like buy all these
Yeah.
things, refurnish the kitchen, do all these things. So of course, my mom in her head, these are things she never had her whole life. So
Yeah.
now she has someone who's like taking care and acting like they care and providing monetary things. And I think that
Yeah.
was a huge part of it.
Yeah, he that was his way in, though,
Yeah.
his charming way to charm her and everybody else on the outside.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So the kids are at daycare, you go to your mom's house, and then you tell her what happened, and then what?
And then I go get my kids from daycare, and then I have my mom watch her, and I go to an attorney, and I file paperwork. And I decide that I can't stay in the town that I'm in because I don't have the support of my mom or my
Yeah.
family. You know, my brothers are all friends with him because they're all in the farming community. So they're like, okay, yeah, it'll blow over, it'll be fine. So I'm like, no, I'm leaving. So I did. I packed my kids in the car and I had my job as an outside salesperson, and my boss actually was generous enough to say, I'm going to move you to another city. You can still have your job, but you're going to be in another place. So I took my kids. We left. I worked a job, and, you know, all these things started happening. You know, the taillights were smashed out in my car, or people
Oh
were
my.
following me, and a lot of stuff that you would never, you know, people can't make that stuff up. But then
No.
I had police come to my house. I'd make all these police reports. Literally, when we went to our divorce hearing, I had a stack of restraining orders and police reports like that thick,
Yeah.
and just unbelievable.
Did people believe you at that point with all the restraining orders, or they still were in denial?
Still in denial. Family name comes from money. Altar boy at the church, you know, his family donates a lot of money to the church and all these things. So no, and I was, you know, my name wasn't a big name. We come from the wrong side of the tracks per se, you know.
Right.
So everybody just looked at me as like I was this girl who was, you know, wanting to be the gold digger and get something. I left that marriage literally with nothing but the clothes on my back, not even my children, and that's another story.
Wow. And so, how have you broken the pattern, like going forward after being in an experience like that?
Well, I think I break the pattern in that every single day I have to remind myself that I was a victim in that circumstance. I was a victim when I was a child. I had no choice. That was how I was raised. I couldn't pick up and leave as a child, but I'm not the victim. I'm not going to play the victim. I'm not going to use that as an excuse. Every single day I make the decision and make the choice that I'm worth more than that. That happened
Mhm.
to me in the past. People judged me, you know, all the time. People said nasty things to me, and that's what it is. That's other people's perception. But I know deep within myself that I'm worth more than that. I'm more valuable than that. And I'm not going to allow being a victim to be my entire identity. So
Right.
I have to tell myself and make a conscious choice every single day to not live in that story and tell that story to make me look like I'm the victim, because I'm not anymore.
Right, right. They don't have that control over you. But
Right.
it's hard because when you have people that look a certain way and, they're perceived a certain way and, money's involved and status is involved, it's really weird because it's like they have that power and nobody can almost expose them for what it is, how it really is.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can be really intimidating. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know what I would have done in a situation like that. I don't think I would have been so brave to get up and get out. Um, and I probably would have maybe blamed myself, and tried to look at different ways of maybe I'm not seeing it that way. So I can see that, but I think that's so incredible that you were able to get out and identify early that this is not right.
I think part of it was I wanted to do, I think me leaving and breaking free of that was kind of like me setting my mom free too.
Yeah.
You know, she couldn't make that decision. She didn't make that decision, you know. So part of it was me saying, okay, I lived this my whole life. I'm not going to live it for the rest of my life, because then what's the point?
Right, right. Yeah. Why torture yourself with that? And some people think they don't deserve more than that. They think, okay, I grew up with that. That's what I know. That's what I'm supposed to be exposed to. But it's not the case. You can break a pattern, um, and you can move forward and change things. So, what words of advice do you have for somebody that may be watching this, going through something similar like that, but doesn't know how to get out of it?
I think the main thing is to know that it's not your fault, to really embed that in every cell in your body, that you are not to blame. You did not choose this. You did not create this. Yes, you know, you're there and it happened because you're part of the situation, but you didn't ask for it. You didn't ask them to be that way. You didn't do something wrong to make them that way. That's their behavior. And just know that, you know, there's somebody out there that can help you, but you have to help yourself first. You have to really dig deep and be strong enough to make the decision that you want something different, that you
So
are something different.
how does somebody help themselves? Like, what would be the first suggestion you have?
I think really just owning who you are, just really looking back at your life and realizing, like for me, gratitude is a huge thing. I look back at my life and I'm grateful for every single thing. Yes, it's emotional. Yes, it sucks. A lot of the things that happen, it's unspeakable, but I'm grateful for each and every moment and circumstance and situation that happened, because it's made me who I am now. It's made me decide that I want something different, that I'm not going to settle for anything less than what I deserve and what I want. So being gratitude for where you've been, and being gratitude for the fact that if you wake up and you have a breath in your body and you're still breathing and your eyes are open, that you can make a decision for something different.
Yeah. I mean, that's so interesting because, I know a lot of people struggle with that and they think, they're kind of stuck in that, okay, I maybe deserved it, or I don't, maybe that's what my life is supposed to be like. But you're saying come to it with a view of gratitude. And I think that's so interesting because for a long time, it's hard for people to think, okay, what did I do not to deserve this? So
Yeah. And I think it's funny because everybody that I talk to says, how can you be grateful for that? And I'm like, I'm grateful because, I had a childhood. I had a mom who was loving and caring and devoted. Yes, she didn't know how to deal with it. But then I look at my grandparents who raised her, and it makes sense why
yeah,
she was the way she was, why she couldn't leave. My grandparents, it was the same pattern.
yeah,
And so I think if you really be in gratitude for where you were, but you look back and you reflect on everything, the whole situation, like
yeah.
who his parents were, what his family dynamics were like, it really makes things come to full circle and makes things clearer, so that you can kind of like pull yourself out of the situation and be like looking in it from the whole
Yeah.
picture, if
You're
you're
right.
not like.
You're right. And some of those patterns are learned patterns, and unfortunately, they get passed down generation to generation unless somebody like you decides, you know what, I don't want that for my family. And so I just think that's interesting about looking at everything holistic and being grateful for that experience, even though it wasn't a great experience, because that took me a long time to try to figure out, and that's a tough one. And then I think it removes a lot of weight from you too, because you're able to understand now the next step is forgiveness.
Yeah. And I want people to understand, it's not necessarily you forgive that person,
Yeah,
but you forgive that person so that you can go on. You forgive that person so that it doesn't have a hold on you anymore. I mean, I don't have a relationship with my dad, but I forgave him. And I told him to his face, I'm forgiving you, but it's not for you. It's for me to have that weight
yeah.
lifted and for me to move forward and me to feel good about me. It has nothing to do with you. So I'm not absolving you for anything. I'm forgiving you so that I can have the best life for me.
That's so funny because I didn't learn that was forgiveness until maybe in my 30s. I really didn't. I honestly thought if I forgave somebody that I was giving them a pass, if
Yep.
that
It's
makes
okay.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. And it wasn't okay. And I felt like I was lying to myself if I forgave them. But the forgiveness part is about you, not about them. And that was a part that I didn't understand till later. So that's
Exactly.
interesting.
And I didn't learn that until my 40s. So
Oh, so I wasn't like a late learner on that one.
I think that's kind of the normal, I
Yeah,
think it takes a lot for women, especially, to realize that we get to make decisions, because a lot of times we're not given that opportunity. A lot of times we just do what we're told. We follow the rules. We, just set ourselves into this little box and this little mold, and we do the things. And then as we start speaking our truth, and as we start making decisions that are just about us, it kind of like, I liken it to you lighting the match. When you make that first decision, you're striking that match.
yeah,
And then every decision you make after that is lighting the fire on fire. And then every decision, it keeps, just that oxygen keeps going in, and that fire just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And you get to the point where you're like, never again will I ever allow anybody to treat me like that. Never again will I allow anybody to make decisions for me or put me under a thumb or have any say about who I am as a person or tell me what my value is. We get to decide that for ourselves every single day.
Right, right. And so when we close, how does anyone watching this connect with you? You also have your own show on the network. Tell us a little bit about that before we close.
Okay, I have Awaken the Warrior within with CJ on Phoenix TV, and I have that because it's kind of I want people to come onto my show and tell their stories just like I did. And the people that I have on, they're coming from the depths of despair. They're coming from tragedies. They've been in jail, they've been on the streets, whatever. But it's that divine little inkling inside them that lights that little fire of hope and that seed of hope where
Right.
they connect with that warrior within and decide I'm no longer the victim. I'm going to take control of my life. And then we talk about this, the tips and the tools that they use to get out of their own way and to go forward in their life. So you can hit me up for that, or you can find me on Facebook, CJC Boyd. Um,
Well, it was absolutely a pleasure chatting with you. I have watched your episode, and I think it was incredible. The incredible story that you posted on there, and
Thank
I
you.
just really I'm glad to have connected with somebody that's another strong-minded woman that has gone through some things but did not let it define her. So
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. So thank you so much, CJ. Thank you to our audience. I just want to thank you guys so much for watching this, and I hope that it resonated with you. And you'll tune in again next week for another episode of Just Julie.